Hello, my name is Euro and welcome to another Baldur's Gate 3 build video. In today's video I'll be showing you my Clownadin build, which will be a paladin fighter multiclass that will focus around dealing critical strike damage while also inflicting a particular crowd control effect from our weapon, the Clown Hammer. So let's get into the character creation. So for our race I've chosen a halfling. Halflings get the lucky trait, which when you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or a saving throw, you can reroll the die and you must use a new roll. And we also get the Brave effect, which gives us advantage against being frightened. We also had 25 feet of movement per turn instead of a 30. But the reason I chose Halfling just because I thought the Halflings would be somebody who would want to go around bonking people with a Clown Hammer. Probably the best race for this would be the Half-Orc, because they have the Savage attacks, which adds another die of damage when you critically strike. And then, of course, if you don't care about the best race, you can go with any race you may prefer. Now for our sub-race, I went with the Strong Heart Halfling, which gives us the advantage on saving throws against poison, and we have resistance to poison damage. Now for our class, we're of course going as a Paladin. Paladin gains the Lay on Hands effect, which is a heal that consumes Lay on Hands charges. If you consume 2 charges, it's doubled effect, and if you use 1 charge, you get half the effect. Divine Sense is you gain advantage against attack rolls against Celestial Fiends and Undead. This is an okay bonus action effect. It is only 2 turns, so it's not that great. Because of our subclass, the Auto Vengeance will get a much better one, the Vow of Enmity, which will give us advantage on 10 turns against a specific target, or if we cast it on ourselves against all targets, although I think that is probably a bug, which I hope stays, because that's a really useful bug to have. But anyway, our subclass, the Oath of Vengeance, we gain the Inquisitor's Might. Your and allies' weapon attacks deal additional 3 radiant damage and can daze enemies for 1 turn. So this is an okay Channel Oath charge. It's only 2 turns, it's a bonus action, and the damage of the radiant damage scales with your charisma modifier. So in our case, it's 16, or it's 3. But it's such a short duration, it's not that great. Wish it was at least maybe 5 turns, but okay, it can still be useful until we get our Vow of Enmity. Now for ability scores, we're going with 17 strength. This is so that we are more effective with our weapons, of course, since our Clown Hammer is not a finesse weapon. We'll also have good mobility with this, since we'll be able to jump further. And we can, of course, carry a lot more. We're going with 10 dexterity. This is just so that I don't have a negative initiative. If you prefer, you could put this into wisdom, if you don't want a -1 in the saving throws, although that won't really matter, since we will get our Aura Protection, which will give us a +3, so, but it is up to you. I'll just leave it in the dexterity. And we're wearing heavy armor as well, so we don't get any benefits from dexterity if we wear medium armor. So yeah, we have to kind of roll with heavy armors. For constitution, I went with 14. This is a little bit lower than normal. I would usually go with 16, but in our case, 14 will be just fine. We will concentrate on a few spells, but they won't be that important. Mostly we'll focus on our smites. And 16 charisma, this is of course here for the higher spell save DC. Far as I know, I don't think paladins have any spell that require spell attack rolls, so we don't need to really worry about that, but this increases both of those. For our skills, we have 4 available here, and out of the 4, religion and medicine I think are kind of the weakest, so I would probably leave this into intimidation and athletics, as I don't think religion and medicine are worth to have. Now for my background, I did go with the Guild Artisan, so I have proficiency in Insight and Persuasion. Guild Artisan is just my favorite background to have. You can pick any background you may prefer for your own preference or for the role-playing purposes. Alright, so at level 2 we unlock our fighting style. We also get our smites and our spellcasting as well. So for the fighting style, I would suggest going with the defense. This gives you a +1 bonus to armor class. Dueling and great weapon fighting won't really work with the Clown Hammer, as it is a versatile weapon, and neither of these fighting styles work with those weapons. Protection can work if you do choose to carry a shield with you. Since you can't do that with the Clown Hammer, it is, I believe, a Warhammer, so you can one-hand on two-handed. If you one-handed with a shield, you will then have a 1d8 weapon damage, and if you two-handed, it's a 1d10. So I'm going with defense and two-handed Clown Hammer. For the prepared spells, I would suggest that you always pick up the various flavors of the Divine Smites. So Searing Smite is nice against creatures who are vulnerable to fire. Thunderous Smite is great because you can knock your target's prone, getting advantage against them. And then Wrathful Smite is nice because you can frighten your target, which will then be unable to move, and they have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. And then for the rest of your spells, you'd probably want utility / debuff spells. So something like Protection from Evil and Good is great, and Compel Duel is also quite nice. Since we have 16 Charisma, we'll have a relatively decent chance throughout the game to actually successfully make enemies fail the saving throw. At level 3, we unlock a few of our subclass features. We also gain the class feature of Divine Health. This makes us immune to being diseased. And for the subclass actions, we gain Abjure Enemy. Frighten an enemy, they'll have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, they cannot move. So basically, this is just a Frighten that lasts for 3 turns instead of 2. Fiends and then have disadvantage on this saving throw. If they save against this class action, they're slowed instead. It is an okay class action, but the second one you get is much better. The Vow of Enmity. You gain advantage on attack rolls against an enemy. So you just point at an enemy and you have advantage against them. Although if you cast this on yourself, you then have advantage against everybody, basically. Which I believe is a bug, so hopefully it doesn't get fixed, but if it does, enjoy it while it lasts. For the old spells, we get Bane. Up to 3 creatures receive 1d penalty to attack rolls and saving throws. Now, this spell would be pretty good. Unfortunately, it is not, because there are a few items in the game, such as the crossbow and a few gloves, that actually cause enemies to be baned when you attack them, and they potentially fail the save. Basically this becomes obsolete, as there are a bunch of items that inflict this same effect. Second spell we get is the Hunter's Mark. We deal additional 1d6 weapon damage, so in our case it will be bludgeoning. It's an okay spell for a little bit of damage increase, as it is a level 1 and it's a bonus action. For the prepared spells here, I would probably take either the Command or even something like Divine Favor. At this point, since we don't really yet have to focus on our critical hits, we can just focus on dealing more damage with our spells. But later on, once we get the Clown Hammer, we're going to be almost exclusive using our Smites, which is going to cause the Clown Hammer to actually roll the effect twice, potentially making an enemy that succeeded saving throw against the hammer to fail it, especially if we crit. At level 4, we unlock additional charge of Lay on Hands. We get one more spell. Here you could take something like Command. Command is always nice to have, since you can make enemies, for example, be prone, so you have advantage against them. For our first feat, we're going with ability improvement +2 into strength. This is going to, of course, increase our weapon effectiveness and give us greater mobility, since we'll be able to jump further. Either at this point or at level 5, you can deal with anti-lethal to gain additional +1 increase to the ability scores. That way you get this to a nice 20. Although you don't necessarily need to do it, because we will be later on getting the Heavy Armor Master, which gives you +1 strength anyway, so anti-lethal here with this character is not necessary. At level 5 we get our extra attack, and we also unlock second level spells, and we gain 2 more oath spells, such as Hold Person. Hold a humanoid enemy still, they can't move, act, or react, and attacks within 10 feet of them are always critical hits. This is an absolutely amazing debuff spell. On us, it won't be as useful, since we will have a decent chance of succeeding instead of a almost guaranteed, but still useful to have. The second spell here is the Mist Step. Surrounded Silver Mist, you teleport to an occupied space you can see. Amazing mobility spell to have pretty much on any character that can get it. For the prepared spells, we're going with the usual picking up the Smite flavor, so we're taking Branding Smite. Possibly marks your targets with light, preventing them from turning invisible, so this is useful against creatures that like to go invisible. At level 6, we unlock our Aura Protection. For our first aura, you and any nearby allies gain a +0 bonus to saving throws. Now this scales with your charisma modifier, so it will be a +3. This is why we didn't need that wisdom, because now our wisdom will be 1 from the proficiency and then a +3 from the aura protection, so a total +4. For the other spells here, I would suggest picking up Lesser Restoration. This is a spell that is nice to have it when you need it, and then when you don't have it, it's like, well, wish I did have it equipped, because saving somebody from blindness or paralysis is quite good. At level 7, we unlock a subclass feature of the Relentless Avenger. If you hit an enemy with an opportunity attack, your movement speed is increased by 15 feet on your next turn, so we increase our movement speed by roughly 50%. Since we have 25, so it's a little bit over 50%. And yeah, so our standard speed is a little bit lower since we are halfling. For the prepared spells, here at this point you can go with anything. We kind of have all of the smite flavors we need, so you could go with utility, you could go with heroism, so you can give this to an ally, although if you build concentration it won't work. You could also take Shield of Faith to increase your own or your allies armor class, so I will take that for now. At level 8, this will our last paladin level, and for the prepared spells, again, we'll pick anything, so I'll just take, I'll just take heroism. For our second feat, I was just going with the Savage Attacker. When making melee weapon attacks, you roll your damage dice twice and you use the highest result. This also works when you smite somebody or you use one of your other smites. It rolls the damage of the smite effect as well, so you will have on average higher damage with those as well. At level 9, we're going to go start our mortal class and we're going to go into fighter. And here will give us a choice of another fighting style. Now, dueling, great weapon fighting, and two-weapon fighting won't do anything for us since we are not using any weapons that can actually work with those. So the only two options we have is protection or archery. If you plan on running a shield with this character, you can then take protection here. I'm going to take archery because this is going to make it that our archery bonus will be a decent chance since we're using Deadshot, which doubles proficiency. So we'll have a decent chance of hitting with our ranged attacks if we need to, though necessarily we won't need to since we can jump quite far. And also as a fighter we unlock our second wind, a 1d10 plus our fighter level heal. Level 10 we unlock our action surge and we can move on. At level lower we unlock our subclass, and here we're going with the champion. Champion gives us improved critical hit. The number you need to roll critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack, so we will be stacking it with a few other items. And finally, level 12, we unlock our third and last feat, and here we're going with Heavy Armor Master. This increases our strength by 1, so we now have a nice 20, and also reduces incoming damage from non-magical attacks by 3 while wearing heavy armor, which is quite nice. Alright, so here we are in the equipment section, so let's start with our weapons. With this weapon, we gain the Grim Irony effect. Whenever this weapon lands a critical hit, both attacker and the target must succeed a wisdom saving throw or become affected with fits of laughter, which is basically the Tasha's Hideous Laughter effect if you or the target fails it. Now there are two ways, potentially three, if you count in calm emotions, that you can make yourself immune to this effect while your enemies will not be immune to it. First one is wearing the face painting kit, which applies the clown face paint on you. You are unafflicted by hideous laughter. You can buy this from the mummy in the circus. The second one is the Sarevok's horn helmet, as it has the dauntless effect. You can't be frightened and cannot be afflicted with other emotion-altering conditions. So once you get Sarevok's horn helmet, you don't need to buy any more of the clown face paint kits. For the alternatives of the melee, I don't have any because, of course, this build is solely revolving around wielding the clown hammer. The second weapon we have here is the Deadshot. The number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack. The wielder also doubles the proficiency bonus while rolling ranged attacks with this weapon unless they have disadvantage. So this is going to allow us basically to have a decent chance of hitting enemies with our ranged weapon, even though we have basically no dexterity. For the long range alternatives, you can take the Bow of Awareness or the Hellrider Longbow. Both of these serve the same purpose. They are stat sticks that give you bonus initiative, except Hellrider Longbow gives you also advantage on perception ability checks, and it can afflict enemies with fairy fire when you hit them, well, potentially. And the last item I have here is the Resonance Stone. All nearby creatures are steeped in bliss. Steeped in bliss, what it does is entity has advantage on physical checks and disadvantage on mental saving throw checks. Entity is also vulnerable to psychic damage. This item will make you an absolute menace because anybody you go next to will have disadvantage on mental saving throws, which means they will have disadvantage on Tasha's Hideous Laughter and the Hammer's Tasha's Hideous Laughter as well. So the odds of you failing to make somebody go prone are quite low, and it's also quite low chance that they will actually be able to save the saving throw of getting back up and not being under the effect of Tasha's Hideous Laughter. By the way, I got this Tasha's Hideous Laughter when I took upon the curse from the cursed amulet from the laughing monk. So you can get a free Tasha's Hideous Laughter on spell long rest. It's not necessary, but it's you can have it. So for the rest of the gear, we have, as I mentioned before, Sarevok's horn helmet. This gives you also the Deathbringer's sight. You gain dark vision up to 10 feet or 50 feet if you already have it. It also gives you the improved critical hit, so we crit on a... we need to roll one less for a critical hit, so with the helmet and the longbow, we crit now on a 17. The two other helmets here we have are the Dark Justice helmet and the Covert Cowl. Same reason, because of the Covert critical. While obscure, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This is the reason we have these here. We would wear one of these until we get Saravok's own helmet. Dark Justice helmet is also nice because it gives you a +1 bonus to saving throws against spells. For a cloak, I went with the Cloak of Protection, armor class saving throws +1. This character can also be without a cloak, it doesn't really matter, but if you have any cloaks that are free lying around, you can just put it on him. For the alternatives, I do have here Cloak of Displacement, which gives you the effect of blur until you take damage, then it reactivates on the next turn. And also the Flesh Melter Cloak, that if a creature hits you with a melee attack, that creature takes 1d4 acid damage. For the armor, I'm going with the Armor of Persistence, all incoming damage reduced by 2, you gain resistance and Blade Ward. Probably the best armor in the game, because Blade Ward halves the damage you take from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, and then Magical Plate reduces it by further 2. And resistance helps you in various saving throws. Then for the alternative, I have the Adamantine Splint armor. All incoming damage is reduced by 2. You also get, enemies, when they attack you with melee attacks, you send them reeling for 3 turns, which gives them a -1 penalty to attack rolls, so wherever they're bad, they have a -3. And also it makes you that attackers can't land critical hits on you. For our gloves, I went with the Legacy of the Masters. Gain a +2 bonus to attack rolls and damage rolls with weapons. So this is here namely so that we have greater accuracy with our weapon, and so that we deal a little bit more damage as well. So we make sure that we always hit our enemies with our hammer. For the early game alternatives, you could take the Gloves of the Growling Underdog. The wearer gains advantage on melee weapon attacks melee attack rolls while surrounded by 2 or more foes. This is a quite nice pair of gloves for the early game, even useful in the late game too. For the boots, I went with the Silver Sea shoes. This increases our jumping distance by 5 feet, so we have quite great mobility because of our high strength and because of these boots as well. You could also take the boots of speed. This gives you a click heels, which is a bonus action dash, which is also great for mobility. Or of course, as always, you could take the Disintegrating Nightwalkers. You can be in webbed, entangled, and snared, and you can sleep or grease eyes, and you gain Misty Step once per short rest. For our amulet, we're going with the Surgeon Subjugation amulet. Once per long rest while scoring critical hit on a humanoid, the wearer can paralyze attack for 2 turns. Since we'll be hitting critical hits quite often, this is a quite useful amulet to have on this character, especially if you fight boss type enemies and they are humanoid in type or nature. For the alternatives, I didn't really have anything else. You can pick any one that you may prefer, maybe even the Misty Step amulet. For the rings, I went with the Ring of Free Action. We ignore the effects of difficult terrain and we can be paralyzed or restrained. This is so that we prevent enemies from, crowd controlling us. And then I also have here the Ring of Protection, armor class and saving throws +1. Again, you can replace this with Acoustic Band for more damage, Crusher's Ring for more mobility, or the Killer Sweetheart, which you can guarantee you 1 critical hit. That is if you don't want to let the RNG gain you critical hit. Instead, you can just have 1 banked up for when you need it, although once per long rest, of course. Alright, so that is it for the equipment section. I'll now see you in the combat showcase. Alright, so here we are at the Flaming Fists barracks for yet another battle showcase. So before combat started, I did drink an Elixir of Viciousness so that we now crit on a 16 instead of a 17 or higher. And I also did let the combat initiative progress so that it's our Clownadin's turn. Now, of course, since we have only 10 dexterity, we'll be on the lower half of the initiative itself, but that is still fine. Okay, first things first, let me show you here. For your reactions, I would suggest Divine Smite 1 and 2, turn them off, because what this does, the game will automatically Divine Smite whenever you attack if these are on. I would turn this off. And then for the Divine Smite on critical hit, I would suggest these two to be on Ask. This way, when you critically hit somebody, you can then choose to Divine Smite as well if you want to. What this is going to do is, if you hit them with a Clown Hammer, and they succeed the saving throw on the Fits of Laughter, you can then critical hit them to force them to roll again, potentially making them to fail. But because we have the Steeped in Bliss, odds are they will most likely fail regardless. Alright, so let's try to showcase that. So first things first, Vow of Enmity. And there is no saving throw against this. It's just you target an enemy and you have advantage against them, or if you target yourself, you will have advantage against all of them. Okay, so let's see. Let's hopefully get a critical hit against this guy. Oh, perfect. So we got a critical hit. Now, how do you know if he failed or succeeded saving throw without looking at the thing here? You can look at a thing here to see, but good indicator is they have this swirly effect on their head, and you will hear them laugh. Then let's take a look at the. So we rolled the 17. So we got a great hit, and then it says here he failed twice. Now, I believe this is bugged because the first saving throw is actually your own saving throw, because aura protection, so we know that's us. Now, since this is not important, since we have either the clown face paint, or we have this horn helmet, so it's unimportant what we roll here because we are immune to the effect. The second roll is his roll, so he rolled an 8, so you got a 7 with disadvantage and plus his wisdom. Now let's pretend he succeeded. What you can do then is Divine Smite critical, use the reaction, and then there is 3 saving throws here. So the first one is DC 15 because this is the normal Tasha's Hideous Laughter saving throw. So if you make somebody laugh, you hit them again, they get to roll a save to potentially save and stand up. And the roll, I believe, gets lower every time. This is why it's 15 instead of a 17. But then the second roll here is us, and it's a standard 17. And again, this is him, which he failed, which is a standard 17 again. So there you go. That's how you can basically re-roll the saving throw on enemies. But what you can do, you can keep on whacking the same target, or we can try to move on and potentially make more enemies laugh. So let's see. Okay, we got unlucky that time. It didn't roll crit. Let's see him again. And unlucky. And unlucky. Okay, well, I guess we got unlucky this time. The last take, I got 4 critical hits. I was like, okay, that was too perfect. People are gonna think I have some like mods on that make me crit every time I hit something. So this is more of a realistic show. You will not be critting, of course, all the time. Sometimes you'll hit all of your attacks, sometimes you won't. But I guess this is the more natural showcase of the actual character in combat. Alright, so that is it for the build. I hope you enjoyed. I would appreciate it if you leave the like and subscribe for more Baldur's Gate 3 content, and I'll see you in the next one.